All right, so here we're going to look at the demographic transition model. This model explains a ton about the world and how it is functioning. So, demographic transition model, what it does is it looks at the changing nature of society mainly through birth and death rates. So, stage one, the birth and death rates are really high, but the population isn't really going anywhere. This was most of the world's history. Yes, our population is growing very slowly but surely. It took to about 1800 to reach the first billion people on the planet. So yeah, that's pretty slow. If you go start a civilization approximately 10,000 BCE to 1800, you're almost 2000. I'm sorry, you're almost 12,000 years to get to a billion people. Well, now since 1800, we're at 7.5, 7.6 billion people here in 2020. Oh boy! So in 220 years, we've had 6 billion. Why? The world entered stage two, basically with the industrial, or certain countries entered stage two of the models. Here's what happened: the birth rate stayed really high, but the death rate dropped. Okay, that's the green here. Birth rate stays high, death rate drops, so that natural rate of increase skyrockets. But then, as those countries continue to progress, the death rate's going to level off or continue to go down, and now the birth rate goes down as well. Then in stage four, they get really close to each other. They get really, really close to each other, and now you're barely growing. In stage five, you're actually declining. Now, besides the transition from 4 to 5, there's no like magical, here's your number with your crude birth and your crude death, and now here's where you are with things. No, that doesn't exist. So, like, if I look here at some maps that I'm going to show you, and you've actually already seen these maps, like, so I can't tell you that, hey, I can tell you if I put these two maps together, crude birth and crude death. But then again, there are some gray areas. So if you think about this, I'm going to move my picture up over here. That you look at high growth, early expanding, so you're still growing pretty fast. Moderate growth, low growth, declining. There's no magical about that. I can tell you that the world right now is in stage three with a birth rate of 20 and a death rate of 8. Okay, that our birth rates are declining as urbanization decreases because we just don't have a need for child labor. Here's some examples in the world today, and I'll go straight population pyramids a bit. In general, sub-Saharan Africa is the only place in the world where stage two is at this point. No country in the world is stage one anymore. There is some indigenous tribes that are still there, but that's about it. In stage four, you're looking most of the developed world. Most of the developing world is either in 2 or 3, depending on where they're looking at. More and more countries are entering into stage 3, and that is why the population of the world is slowly but surely. The population is still going up, but the growth rate is slowing down. And we have tons of countries, or not tons, but we have some countries in the world where the population is just flat out declining. So, crude birth, where crude birth is really high, you're almost always going to be in stage 2, and the death rates aren't far behind. Sub-Saharan Africa is your main spot for that. So if you look just south of the Sahara Desert, that's there. Stage 3, birth rate is now dropping. So unless you see the data over many years, you won't know what stage it's in. So if you just get the snapshot of 1 year like you do on these maps, well, then you guys start to piece things together. South America is too. South America, most of them, Southwest Asia, most of South Asia, although some of South Asia is in stage 2. Southeast Asia is in stage 3. I'm missing something. Central Asia is in stage 3 as well. And most of the countries you would think of as developed in the world, the United States, Canada, Western Europe, are in stage 4, with stage 5 mainly going to countries in Eastern Europe and a little bit of East Asia. China presents an interesting case. Urban China is as developed as any in the world, and they are in stage 4 of development. But rural China is as undeveloped as anywhere in the world, and they're in stage 2, and that's where almost all the population growth is within China. If you think about it this way, okay, these are equal. So this region's of population in 2100. So look at color. If you're colorblind, I apologize. I would just look at the numbers at that point. So equal region populations in the world, that almost all of your growth is in sub-Saharan Africa, some in South Asia. East Asia is declining. Or East Asia, by this point, is declining as a portion of the whole. Europe, Russia, and half of the United States would all be one population. Almost the entire Western Hemisphere comes together. So that's how you get this, is the demographic transition model. Now, let's look at it from a population pyramid perspective. that if I show you population pyramids, which I am here in a second, you can basically see no country in the world in stage 1, remember. Stage 2, more triangular. Stage 3, kind of ballooning. Stage 4, that base is going to enter, and then stage 5 looks this way. So let's look here at some countries. Okay, so this is, I can't remember, the United States of America. United States of America in 2020, here you go, is a almost definitional stage 4. Are we growing a little bit? Yes, but not by leaps and bounds. A definitional stage 5, Japan. Oh boy, see that shrinking down there at the bottom? Population growth not happening. Germany is another one. It usually provides an interesting test case. Germany is at the later stages of 4, barely growing at this point. You want a stage 3 country? How about Brazil? Okay. You can see here the base is starting to shrink a little bit, but you still have pretty high growth rates here. But it's growing moderately. I almost always give my country of most growth is Niger. So I want you to think here for a second. I'm just going to go to a random country. Let's try Djibouti. What stage is this one in? Pretty clearly stage 2. Still have pretty high growth rates here. The base is still wider, but it's getting towards the end of stage 2. You see here like the 20 to 45 and the 0 to 4 getting pretty similar. So you might be the late stage 2, early stage 3. Let's go to a country that starts with P. How about the Philippines? Didn't change a ton, but the base down here is significantly narrower. I'd say late 2, early 3. How about Panama? Now here's more. I would say Panama. I would say this is definitely, it's late 2, early 3. Again, if you can't figure out, a lot of the world's in late 2, early 3. Paraguay, definitely more of a narrower base here. I'd say definitely stage 3. And we'll do one more here. Let's do Lebanon. I would say this is 3. You're still growing, but it's pretty modern. People are living longer at that point. Again, this is all determined off birth and death rate, which is reflected in the population pyramids. One more thing you should know about the demographic transition model. There's also, it's called the ETM. It's the epidemiological transition model. The epidemiological transition model will take whatever stage of the demographic transition model countries in and then tell you how people are going to die in it. So stage 1, this was like the Black Plague. Okay. Then you hit stage 2. And this is when pandemics spread. When pandemics are receding at this point. So most of the world entered into stage 2 of the demographic transition model with the Industrial Revolution or the Medical Revolution. So a lot of what you would today consider developed countries, if you were earlier into it, you were Industrial Revolution, and then most of Sub-Saharan Africa, Southwest Asia, South Asia entered into stage 2 with the Medical Revolution in the 1960s. And so that's when we saw stage 2. Stage 3 is degenerative and human-created diseases, and stage 4 is they're just living longer through those. And then stage 5, and yes, this model was made before COVID, it's reemergence of infectious diseases. So that is something to look at here. Now, one more thing of note in the demographic transition model, I should have said this earlier, but once you move forward in the demographic transition model, no country in the world has gone backwards. So what would stage 6 look like? Something to think about. You should know this model like the back of your hand. There's going to be so many influences of this as time goes forward. So make sure stage 2, high growth, stage 3, moderate growth, stage 4, low growth, stage 5, declining. Remember, there's no hard and fast rules as to when you're in what stage, except the transition from 4 to 5. There's the question mark here because this is the best chart I can find, and some people at stage 5 for a long time was a theory. It's basically accepted now by everybody. So, and you should also know what the population pyramids look like in each state.